Tesla, Ford, General Motors, the EV tax credit extension. Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. If you're thinking about buying a new car or a used car and it's an electric vehicle, stay tuned. This video, I'm going to cover the change in the electric vehicle tax credit. It's been extended a little bit if you're in sort of the right camp, and I will explain what the right camp is in the video here. So, the US adjusts the electric vehicle tax credit. Originally, everyone expected that the September 30th deadline for expiration was a hard deadline, that the electric vehicle $7,500 tax credit was going to expire. So there is some nuance to this. If you're thinking about buying a used or a new electric vehicle, this is good stuff. The prior belief was that you had to fully purchase the vehicle and have it, like in your garage by September 30th. If you were a consumer, you were expected, or at least the thinking was, you would buy the car and have it in your garage no later than September 30th of this year. So there's an IRS guideline clarification about this. It's different for two different camps. I'm going to explain what the two different camps are. Okay, so the first step is the adjustment, the nuance. Contract to buy plus deposit, that is the nuance. The nuance is if you want to buy a new or used electric vehicle, you can still receive the $7,500 tax credit after the deadline, after September 30th of this year. So that's good news. That's really good news. Because the thinking was you needed to have contract to buy, you needed to actually have the car in the garage to collect the credit after September 30th, to collect the credit. That you had to have the car, not just a contract to buy and deposit. You actually had to have the car in your possession. No longer true. There's been a clarification. The tax credit can be received after the deadline, the September 30th deadline, even if you don't have physical possession by September 30th. In other words, if you place a contract, if you sign a contract to buy a new or used electric vehicle and you make the deposit by September 30th, you don't necessarily have to have the car in your garage. There's a delivery time, there's a delay the IRS will allow you if you're in the right camp. So that you could sign a contract to buy a new or used electric vehicle by September 30th and place a small deposit, and then maybe you actually physically take possession of the electric vehicle in October, November, or December, something reasonable. You can still qualify and receive the tax credit for the 2025 tax year. Okay, so here are the two camps. There's two camps where the change only affects one camp: commercial versus private or consumer buyers. If you're a consumer, everything I just said applies. If you're a consumer buying a used electric vehicle or a new electric vehicle, everything I just said applies. All you have to do is have a signed contract and placed a deposit by September 30th if you're a consumer. But if you're a business, it's different. The screws are a little tighter. If you're a commercial buyer of a used or new electric vehicle, the vehicle must be at work. It must be in your possession by September 30th. So there's a little bit of sort of a skating if you're a consumer, but not if you're a business. If you're a business, the old expectation still applies. You actually need to take physical possession of the vehicle. If you're a business, have the vehicle in the garage and used during work. But if you're a consumer, which is probably the vast bulk of electric vehicle purchasers, you only need to have the contract signed and the deposit. And the deposit could include a trade-in vehicle, according to the IRS. I'm going to give you the IRS exception for consumers in a couple seconds here. But contract deposit, but the vehicle does not have to be in your possession if you're a consumer. Okay, so here are some more details. You want to verify this with your tax professional, okay? Because the IRS guidelines, if you look on the website today, like right now, like right before I made this video, I verified, yes, indeed, this is correct. But could they change their mind or their position? Absolutely. And so we're getting close to the deadline, which is September 30th, a little more than a month away now. So you definitely want to check the IRS website periodically to see if they change that. And for all we know, it could be extended even further, because that's sort of been the approach of the current government, is they set a deadline and then they extend it. They've done that with tariffs. Okay, so verify with your tax professional everything that I said. If you're a consumer buying a new or used electric vehicle, you don't necessarily have to have it in your possession by September 30th. You only need to have a purchase contract and a deposit made. Purchase contract signed, deposit made for consumers. That's the requirement for September 30th, even if you're not in possession, physical possession of the vehicle. For consumers, It's different. The screws are tighter if you're a commercial buyer, if you're a business buyer. The old expectation applies for business purchasers. You've got to have the vehicle in hand, in your physical possession by September 30th. There's no skating. Okay, so back to consumers, back to the good camp. There's two camps here. The commercial user, they're still expected to have the vehicle in their possession by September 30th. But for consumers, let's talk about, do you need to buy a new or used electric vehicle? Does it matter? The only thing that really matters is which tax credit designation you use. Okay, so for a new electric vehicle, if you're going to buy a new Tesla or a new Ford or GM electric vehicle, for new vehicles, the tax credit is 30D. D as in dog, 30D, okay, for new. For used, if you're buying a used electric vehicle, the suggested retail price has to be $25,000 or less for used electric vehicles. You would be using tax credit 25E, E as in echo, 25E tax credit for used. Okay, so for commercial electric vehicles, again, you're stuck with having the vehicle in possession by September 30th. The tax credit in that case is 45W. And it must be placed in service on the job by the original deadline, September 30th. Okay, so the cool thing is, if you're a private user, if you're a consumer and you're buying an electric vehicle and you want to get the tax credit, you only need to have a signed purchase contract and a deposit on the books by September 30th. So there are some things I could not fit on the board. So the current government has been known to change its mind and change the terms of agreements. I've already mentioned this, tariffs, good example. So it's worth paying attention to the EV credit announcements by this government, because they could change it. You know, who knows what direction they will go in. They've changed the tariff agreements multiple times in lots of different ways, all different directions, creating confusion. So pay attention. The bottom line is, you really want to pay attention to this to see if the government changes anything about these requirements. I mean, a cool thing to do would be, let's give commercial buyers the same break that consumers are getting. Let's allow commercial buyers for businesses to also only need the purchase contract and the deposit. For now, though, that's not the case. For now, if you're a commercial buyer, a business, you're stuck with having the vehicle in possession by September 30th of this year. So, so what is the effective date of the tax credit? This is sort of a, you know, it's not what you might think. If you're a consumer and you buy a new or used EV, while it's true that you qualify for the tax credit, the $7,500, as long as you have a signed purchase contract and a deposit made by September 30th, you don't actually book receiving the $7,500 credit until you actually physically receive the vehicle. So you want to make sure that you, number one, have your contract signed and deposit made by September 30th. And then number two, get the vehicle in your possession before the end of the year. And that way, on the day you take physical possession of the electric vehicle, that's the day that you officially qualify to claim the tax credit, the $7,500 tax break on your taxes for 2025. So you want to verify all of this with your tax professional. I'm not a tax professional. I've followed this a little bit, but for the most up-to-date information, you want to check with your tax professional, check with the IRS website. So here's what the IRS website said about this. This was today. Before I made this video, I wanted to make sure. This is from 2 days ago. 2 days ago, on Friday. The IRS said this on the website: for purposes of the electric vehicle credits, 25E, 30D. What does acquired mean? Okay, and this is the answer from the IRS. For purposes of these two sections, a vehicle is acquired, in double quotes, as of the date a written binding contract is entered into and a payment has been made. A payment includes a nominal down payment, like $50, that's nominal, or a vehicle trade-in. That's for consumers, okay? For business users, for business buyers, 45W, check with the IRS to see if this gets updated, to see if this has changed. But for now, this only applies for consumers. So I guess the bottom line is, the takeaway is, the government has been a little bit wishy-washy with deadlines. They have put out deadlines and then they've come back and changed deadlines. We all know that. We've seen it in the last 6 or 7 months of this year. right? It seems like they set a very forceful, hard deadline, then they revisit it and change it and delay it, push it off, sometimes increase it. It's sort of all over the map. So pay attention to the IRS guidelines about electric vehicle credits. Make sure you know that there's a difference between a commercial, a business purchase, and a private purchase, consumer purchase, and check with your tax professional and check with the government. So government, your tax professional, the IRS, and know the difference between the two camps, commercial business, private consumer. And then if you have any questions about this, if you're in the market to buy a new or a used electric vehicle, this is important because that's not chump change. $7,500 is a pretty good write-off. You definitely want to take advantage of that if you can. It's not chump change, right? So if you have any questions, please post questions in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. And I really want to thank everyone for watching. Have a great day.